Yeah, and there have been some hospitals in local areas that have done that. They've come up with scenarios that they've simulated that say, what happens if we have to, you know, basically escape the hospital, and where do we move to, and where do we move our patients in the case of a tornado, in the case of a pandemic. So some of that has been done, and what you're saying is the data needs to be localized and considered, and that's really true of any you know, multinational, multi-state kinds of systems. You have localized rules based on what's going on in the ground. I've seen that when I worked at American Express, and I saw that when I worked at Northwestern Mutual. We had different rules for different states. And what you're saying is the data has to have that, and the models have to have that. It might be silly to optimize on you know, ICU beds in some counties versus others, because there's just not enough people that are going to get that. So, you know, I think this is going to open the door for some better planning. And do you think business is going to learn from this, Ed? Do you think there'll be more scenario planning happening?
Oh, absolutely. I think the whole issue of supply chain and supply chain length has now come into focus for everybody. That, you know, keeping a supply chain that is very strung out has a lot of risk. And I think there'll be a lot of discussion about supply chain risk. And that should be a metric that we all start to measure. You know, what is the supply chain risk if you're a hospital? What is your supply chain risk if you're a manufacturer? What's your supply chain risk, you know, if you're a not just a manufacturer, but let's say you're a service company. Where does it exist? Where is that risk, and how do we quantify that, and then come up with something that's acceptable? I wouldn't be surprised if this does not become a common board discussion now, real review. And based upon that, we would expect a couple things to happen. Number one, we'll expect our supply chains to become much less global and more local. Number one.
Yeah, and we may include things that we tried to get rid of, like warehouses. I mean, the whole thing is that, you know, the CPAs won the game, and we got rid of all the warehouses, and everything was just in time. Well, like you said, all it takes is one of the weakest links in the chain to be broken, and your supply chain's broken, and just in time doesn't work anymore. So I think we may see an emphasis on warehousing things a little bit more.
And I think the second thing is everything's going to be digital now. I mean, a lot of things that weren't digital before, that we had a lot of interaction on a personal basis, will now move to the digital environment. I mean, take a look at what's happening with retail. I mean, a lot of retail is now going to close, and a lot of the retail that is going to go online. That anything that's even slightly questionable is going to move online.